Hello,
Hello, how's it going? Happy Friday.
TGIF, everybody.
No, I'm super happy that it's Friday. We were just talking about the fact that we're happy.
hmm
We're like, let's go weekend. Do you have any like cool weekend plans?
Yeah, sleep.
That is a cool weekend plan. I'm here for it.
Same
Alright.
here. Same here. How you
So
doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. Like I feel like I had a productive week. I always like when it's productive, but I am looking forward to sleep as well. I might watch the Bob Marley movie, but that's about it. All right. So for people who tuned in and you're like, what is this? This is my first time tuning in. This is a weekly stream hosted by TBD, which is Block's business unit. And basically every Friday we talk to different leaders in the software, not software, sorry, the self-sovereign identity industry. And today we have a really interesting guest who actually is building I don't know if he would want to call it this. He could describe it how he would, but I've tried it out and it reminds me of ChatGPT. So I'm thinking of it as like ChatGPT built on Web 5. And I'll let him explain more, but I think we can bring him up on stage.
Yep.
Great. Hey, Simon, how's it going?
Hi guys, thanks
Oh,
for inviting me in. Super
of course.
excited to talk a little bit with you guys about personal AI.
Of course. I'm super excited too. And before we jump into who you are, what you're doing, what you're up to, I always like to start with like a little bit of an interesting, fun question for everyone. So my question to y'all is OpenAI recently released, I think it's called Sora. I don't know how you would pronounce it, Sora or something like that.
Sora, yeah.
Sora, okay, perfect. And basically you can like take text and turn it into videos. How do you guys feel about that? Are you like this is cool? You're like this is concerning or weird? I don't know. I'm curious.
I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
please go ahead, Simon.
No, I think it's super cool, and I think OpenAI have been like really great at pushing the boundaries with their scaling approach to machine learning and LLMs. But yeah, so I love the research they're doing. Maybe I'm a little bit more skeptical about their consumer product side of things, but I'm sure we will talk more about that.
Yeah, I think it's very fascinating to see like how they're pushing the limits. But it's scary to see the product of it and what the world could make of it because it's like this is too much power, I guess. But
That's
it's really exciting to see, to be honest. Be scary, but exciting.
I feel a mixture, right? Like I love the like y'all are saying, like the technology behind AI is like mind blowing. It's like, dang,
hmm
how are you able to even do something like this? But at the same time, it is concerning because it's like, oh my gosh, deep fakes have already been a huge issue. Also, I don't know if it's just me. When I watch the videos, like it's making my skin crawl. They look like a little creepy. I'm like, oh my god. But I do think it's a all of this AI technology too is a good case, in my opinion, for like cryptographic verification. A lot of the stuff that like all of like SSI um companies, including ours, are working on. Where like I think I saw a picture the other day, and it was like a scientific diagram, but it was like made by AI completely wrong. And I'm like, this is such a good use case for like, hey, this is verified, like reputable information versus this is not reputable information at all.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Well, in a bit for us to confirm that you are also not like a deepfake video, Simon, can
I
you tell us a
promise
little
I'm
bit about
real.
yourself?
I don't have any SSI way to prove it today, but maybe in the future.
Yeah, please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm your typical tech geek. Started building websites, in primary school with Microsoft Front Page and all that stuff. And I found out it was more fun than walking with papers. So I think I just realized that I really love building things with technology.
Mhm.
Um, so I took like a computer science bachelor's degree and a master's degree in IT and business economics. And along the journey, I built a handful of startups and exited a few as well. Most recently, I've been CTO at one of the largest online travel companies in the Nordics. Just before
Nice.
COVID hit, then we took a kind of a rough period with COVID. Everything is fine now, but I also realized that it was time for me to try something else, and that's where this journey started. So I just love building products that makes a difference for people.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah,
Of
I
course.
love that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I got too excited. I just like that you said you like building products that makes a difference for people. But sorry. Go ahead, Ace.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. So, can you tell us a bit more about Keen? Because, like Rizèl mentioned, tried it out, and even the website is very interesting to see how you can bond or create. Should I put it, contextual, meaningful conversations with AI?
Yeah, I mean, I
That
can
sounds.
maybe tell a little bit about the journey that got us
Yeah.
to Kin. And basically, like I've been interested in blockchain technology since way back. Mostly the technology, not so much, the investment gambling side of things. I mined Litecoin in like 2012 in my friend's dorm basement because there was free electricity and stuff like that.
Oh
But
wow.
then it kind of, it disappeared a little bit from my life. But I've been kind of following along, and I think also over the course of my life, I've seen the transition from Web 1 to Web 2, the rise of big tech, seen the wonders of what the internet enables, but also kind of what it turns into when the incentives are skewed, right? This attention economy that we have now. So I think I have a real passion for basically like decentralized identity and ownership and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I think our behavior and our data is super valuable. Why is it that we cannot get more of this value ourselves? Why is it only like the big tech giants that can extract this value from us? So that was basically kind of my my values and stuff like that. And then two years ago, I got together with my two co-founders today to kind of explore this a little bit, explore identity and data ownership. This was around the time where Web3 was really hyped, and we got NFTs, and we got this notion of digital ownership for the first time, which really was incredibly interesting to us. So we were exploring that a lot. We were trying to figure out how can we help people have an actual identity on the internet, right? Because right now, we as individual persons, we don't really exist on the internet. We exist as rows in companies' databases, but we don't really have our own presence. How can we do that? And we were looking at NFTs and metadata, and can we somehow put some data into that? And I think that was when I really, or we as a team, dug into self-sovereign identity. And we read the Bible, Self-Sovereign Identity by Drummond Reed and Alex Pritchett, and we just fell in love, basically, with the vision. I was like, this is what we want to see for the future of the internet. So how can we do something with that? It's technology and idea that's been around for a long time. We kind of came a little bit from the blockchain space, and we saw kind of the SSI space, and we also saw that it was kind of merging a little bit, or at least SSI was starting to understand, okay, we can solve some of the challenges with blockchains and stuff like that. At the same time, we had like the World Wide Web Consortium with the decentralized identifiers and the verifiable credentials, like going from drafts into an actual recommendation, which is really, really big. Rarely happens. So it's like, okay, maybe changes are actually happening on the internet now. So we got really deep into SSI and trying to understand that. We started, I think, as most companies, with kind of building a wallet that, okay, then we can, take some data, people could connect like the Strava data, and then, you could basically, we could generate verifiable credentials that showed that you were really fast when running a 5K run, and then you could go to the store and you could show it, and then they would give you maybe a discount because you could prove that you're a good runner. And we thought like this is amazing, and everyone could kind of see like the step 3, 4, 5 down the road. This is where we have to go. But getting that started was just like incredibly difficult. It was kind of like trying to boot a three-sided marketplace with new technologies that people didn't really understand, and new ways of like sharing data, and like, why should the runner shop do that? And no one really understood it, basically. So we were like building the technology and the foundations, but we didn't really know like how do we build a product that can, where we can, with that product, take people on that journey to become self-sovereign, right? So that was kind of what we wanted to do. And then ChatGPT came around. And yeah, it took a few months for us, but then we realized that what we have learned and explored in self-sovereign identity about the tech and all the things that we built, combined with AI, it was kind of the perfect combination, because with SSI, we could solve some of the challenges that we saw in AI around trust and verifiability and privacy. And at the same time, the AI or the LLM gave us the opportunity to build a product directly with the user, where we could give them value around their data, right? They could interact with their data directly. So we didn't have like any third parties that we needed to convince. We could just build something amazing for the user. And that's how we could kind of get them started on this journey. And then, it just started to take off from there.
Yeah, I was just actually gonna ask, like, with the experience with SSI and identity specifically, and also having a personal AI, I was very curious as to how that journey tied into each other. I mean, you've explained it a little bit, but I mean, it's a little bit going from this is identity, this is what we're trying to solve with identity, and you can have your own personal AI, and how that, like, are there like more specific pain points that you address with that integration? I think that's going to be very interesting.
Absolutely. So basically, we started around like April last year with this SSI and AI combination, and we were like trying to, can we get some data in? We were like doing, again, Strava integrations, different integrations, and you could like talk to your data, like ask it, I want to prepare for a run, what can I do, and stuff like that. And then, I think everyone really understood how powerful this could be, and also why, privacy and owning the data was important. So started raising money and building a team and all these kind of things. So right now we have assembled a team of expert. We're 10 people, experts within machine learning and data and self-sovereign identity and app development, and of course product and marketing and all the other things you have to do and to kind of make this vision come true. And in December we launched basically Kin, the brand, and the new identity, and also the beta, private beta to the first users. So what is Kin? Kin is basically your personal AI for your private life. And what we really want to do is like help you navigate your own life. So small and big life decisions. It's this combination of, let's say, a life coach where you have some trust in his frameworks that he has to work with and his confidentiality, and a combination with the close friend that you might have, which you can relate to very well, he knows you very well, and then the power of generative AI, where you just have like a lot of knowledge in the LLMs. You have they're always available, right? And they are non-judgmental, so they don't judge you, and they are ready anytime you want to talk to them. And we are building it with the principles that we really and truly believe in, which is SSI and data ownership. So it's truly your data, and it's also completely private. And we think that's really, really important, because I think we see into a future where personal AI will be like the most valuable digital asset that everyone will own. Like everyone will have a personal AI in 5-10 years. And it's gonna help them in their life, hopefully make their lives better. And we think it's really, really important that it's not kept in walled gardens. It has to kind of transcend ecosystems of Google and Apple and whatever, and it must ultimately be owned and controlled by its user, right? And we think it's one of the most important ideas to work on this decade. Elon
Yeah, that
Musk was
sounds.
actually out in an interview like a few weeks ago where he kind of explained this as like, don't take my friend away from me, right? So imagine that you spend 5 years building your personal AI and it's, super awesome and it's really helping you out in your life. And then because you breach some terms of whatever platform it's on, it's suddenly removed, right? It's gone. And that whole investment, first of all, is just gone, and your life just suddenly degrades with whatever 20% because it's not there to help you out anymore, right? And we don't want that to happen, basically.
I mean, a future with sorry, Rizal, I was gonna say a future with like personal AI sounds like future like very interesting. I can imagine having my own Jarvis and all of that stuff. I'm always asking my friends like, how close are we to having a Jarvis? I need to buy a car. Can you do that for me? Or book a? I mean, we have some of it like getting to that point. So it's really interesting to see the boundaries of personal assistance in terms of AI, and yeah, that's very. I don't know what the limit is going to be because, like I said, there are some things that you still have to be like cautious about with technology and also with ethics, and all of those things. But it's a future to dream about, I think.
I think it's close. Like I even think even before the 5 to 10 years we could get there because we already have like Amazon Alexa and stuff like that where you can be like, Alexa, turn my light off, set my alarm. So and now we just didn't have like this generative AI technology. So now we'll be able to combine that. And I love that your Simon and his company are thinking about like, hey, why does these big companies get to own our data? How do we get to own it instead? All right, why don't we like jump into the demo, because I think we talked a lot about what Kin is, but like I think we want to see it. I mean, I have it on my phone, I tried it out. But let's see it happen in real life.
Sure. So I recorded this a little bit earlier so I could share with you guys. So everything is basically like protected and encrypted, and you have a chat interface that you're kind of familiar with from ChatGPT. Here I'm asking a question about what I should ask the community here, what I should tell about Kin. And basically, through the conversations that you have with Kin, it learns about you, and it's able to use that knowledge as you talk to it. So this is the beta. It's super simple. It's very raw, but it's a showcase of what's coming basically. And all the data lives on your device. Like we cannot see any of the data. So it is private and it is yours. Yeah.
See, as a sense of humor.
So one of the big things is memory. So this is Kin's memory or knowledge about me. So you can see I was a little dot here in the middle, me. And this is all the knowledge it has extracted just from our conversations about me and my life and what's important to me. So here we have, Kin. If I click on Kin, there's, something about the people that are working at Kin and what we're doing and so forth. And I can kind of navigate around. So it's building this, it's called a knowledge graph. It's kind of a network of memories and how they relate to each other. And we do that through the conversations, basically. So when you're talking to it, Kin is trying to figure out what's important here about your life that I would like to remember. And it merges it with the existing knowledge. And then when you're having a conversation, we will recognize that, okay, so here is now you're talking about your mom. Let's go, fetch everything we know about your mom. And oh, well, there's also your dad, which you usually talk about or think about like in your own brain, right? When you think about your mom, you also immediately maybe think about your dad. So we will extract the information that we know about your mom and your dad. We'll bring that into the conversation. So Kin has that knowledge and can actually answer and like be personal. So the whole goal here is to kind of give Kin knowledge about you and about your life. And you can kind of go in and you can instruct something about its behavior. We also have this new feature about personalized reminders that are coming up. So you can kind of set reminders where Kin will reach out to you. and ask you questions that are like completely personal. So it could be, for example, yeah.
I was gonna say I see he also has a sense of humor with a GIF.
Yeah. So that was a little fun thing we did. Gave it access to Giphy, so it can actually use GIFs when it's talking to you, which just makes it feel like you're chatting to a human being instead of a robot, right? Even though it's not. It makes it more fun and engaging. So that's basically what we're building here, and I also just wanted to show you here. So here's some settings about the data control. So you will see that this is the size of your data store. All the data is locally on your device. You have a DID, which means you also have a private and a public key that all the data is connected to, and you're in complete control. You can back up your data anytime you want. You can restore it. It's yours basically, and so we basically don't have any backend servers, right? All the data is on people's devices, and I think that's a big difference from what we have seen with a lot of other personal AI startups, right? That are taking the traditional Web2 centralized approach where they keep everything in their databases, and somewhere in that company, someone has the key to the data, right? And that's what we're talking about with ChatGPT. They use the data to train on. Google was just out here, I think it was yesterday, right? With Gemini, where they said, don't send personal information to us. Don't send any data to us that you would not like, one of our employees to sit and look through, because we're doing that, right? And that's just not going to work if you want to build a personal AI.
Yeah, talking about data, we have a question from our Discord, and it basically asks, how does Skin ensure the privacy and security of user data while running all these, complex AI models, considering the need for processing large amounts of personal information? And a follow-up to that would also, just so they can answer at once, be, what if I change my devices since it's stored on my local device? What happens to what he knows about me and stuff like that? And
that's a good question. That's a great question. So when it comes to the privacy and the data security, we have this focus on being like local first. So that means we try to push everything to the edge, because we believe that edge machine learning. So already in Apple and modern like Androids, there are amazing machine learning chips that can do a lot of stuff. We're, for example, running an embeddings model on the device, which means we can do vector embeddings in 10 milliseconds instead of 200 milliseconds, and the network round trip to OpenAI, right? So that just enables a lot of things and gives a better user experience. Of course, the chips in the phones and devices are not yet strong enough to run the very large language models. So we have this hybrid approach where we try to do as much as we can on the edge, and then for the big models, we run them in the cloud in a confidential computing environment. And to kind of briefly describe what that is, that is like on modern CPUs, we have had that we have something called trusted execution environments, and it's basically an isolated environment on the CPU where you can execute code or programs without the hosts being able to do like a memory dump. So usually if I run a server and I process data, the thing with doing confidential or doing compute on private data is that it's quite challenging. We know how to do like data storage of private data, right? Like encryption at rest. We know how to do encryption at in transit, but when it comes to like encryption in compute, it's challenging. And here we have a few different options. You can run everything locally, but that's not really viable because we need the big models. Then you have homomorphic encryption, which is super awesome and enables you to do computations without actually like decrypting the data, right? But it's still very early, and before we can actually use that for LLMs, there's probably 5 years or something. And then you have this third option, which is confidential computing, which are these isolated environments that we're kind of used to having with CPUs, but it's a very new thing for GPUs. So it's actually only on the latest like H100 from NVIDIA that we, for the first time, have a trusted execution environment. So that's what we are working with a partnership on Azure and some other people, and figuring out how can we deploy machine learning models into these confidential environments such that we can guarantee the privacy and security all the way from your device into the actual machine learning execution and all the way back. So it's tricky and it's hard, and it also requires us to be on this journey from using the normal closed source models. So right now we still have some uses of GPT-4 Turbo. We do it on Azure's OpenAI services platform. So there are some more guarantees around privacy and data security, but it's still not all the way there. So what we are doing and what our head of AI is doing is we are looking at all the different tasks that we have for large language models and other machine learning models. And then we are replacing them with open source models that we can run either on the device or in the confidential GPU environment in the cloud. I hope that was answer enough. I'm happy to dive more into it.
No, that was good. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was good. I don't think.
And then around the question around the multiple devices. So that's a good question, and we are exploring different options here.
Wait, I think you should highlight it so that people know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So one of the.
I asked that.
Oh, you asked that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, there we go. No, one of the options is, of course, the decentralized web nodes that you guys are building, right? Because that's an amazing way to give people a personal data store where they can store the data, and they can kind of you can connect to it. So right now, actually, on in our app, you have a local version of the decentralized web node.
Yeah.
And then the idea is to give everyone a cloud version of the decentralized web node. And then when you go on your other device, it will be able to synchronize the data from that, right? So you can think of it as kind of a mesh network that is syncing the data between your devices, and all the data is encrypted to your private key. So even though it's synced through a server in the cloud, all that data is actually encrypted with your private public key pair, right? So it's only on your device that the data can actually be read.
That makes sense. I was gonna ask already, like, where does the memory get stored? But I guess you just answered that. Like, stored the memory for the AI is stored in the decentralized web node on your local device.
Yeah, everything is on the local device right now.
Awesome. We have a question from Discord as well. It says, if you wanted to ingest, say, all of their tweets to Kin, is there some sort of import facility?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, and it's something that we have been thinking about a lot. Our focus has been around what we call soft data. So maybe I have to explain that a little bit. There's hard data and there's soft data. Hard data is all the facts and the data points that exists out there. So that would be your tweets or your Apple Health, your calendar, and your emails, and all these artifacts, right? That live out there, and that, of course, tells a lot about who we are. But it all starts somewhere else. It all really starts with the soft data, which is what is inside your head, your values, your thoughts, your relationships with people, and how you approach life. So what we want to be really good at to begin with is extracting and using this soft data. Because if we build up a foundation where Kin truly gets to know you, who you are, and what you do based on this, then it will be much easier for us to add external data sources and know how to actually interpret these data sources, right? Because let's say you add, you want to tell Kin about an article. Well, it's great, and we might want to summarize the article so we know a little bit about it. But what's actually really important is what you think about that article. Why are you telling Kin about that article? Is it because you really like this idea or this idea and this idea, right? So that's what we are focusing on a lot. But external data is definitely on the product roadmap, and we see a lot of personal AI companies that are jumping out to do a lot of data integrations, and then you can talk to your email, you can talk to your whatever Twitter, and you can post a tweet and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
And it demos really well on Twitter or whatever. But we think that you have to start on a step below and actually try to understand the person, because if you don't understand the person, you don't understand what they want when they say, can you help me book a restaurant, right? Okay, what do you want to know about the person? You want to know what they like, you want to know where they live, you want to know what restaurants they have eaten at before, all these kind of things, right? So that's where we start, and then we move into actually taking in other data sources.
That's a cool thought to get good at the soft data. That makes sense, because sometimes with tools like ChatGPT, right? I'm like, oh, help me brainstorm this, and then like all the brainstorming it does, I'm like, I would never do this. This is not like something within my personality or something I would even be capable of doing. So I like that approach. I'm excited for when y'all can be able to embed tweet or integrate getting tweets, because I feel like that has a lot of soft data in there about myself. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%, and we really want to do that. But it's been very important for us to focus on kind of the memory component. And I don't know if you saw, like, ChatGPT just released their memory. Probably because there's a lot of demand out there for memory. But what they released is basically like a bullet list. You can add this and that and so on, which is, I think, it's a little bit a simple solution. And this is really where we kind of differentiate us. We're focusing a lot on the long-term memory. So what I just showed you in the demo is what you can think of as, if you kind of try to map it to the human brain a little bit, you have something called semantic memory, which is about facts and relationships and all these kind of things. And that's more or less what you see in this graph. There's like Simon, he works here, he thinks this about that, and so on. But what we're working with right now is kind of the other side of things, which is what we call episodic memory. And episodic memory is about events that are happening in your life, kind of things that are anchored to time. So that could be, that you went to the park this weekend with Sarah and it was so fun because, her dog played in the water fountain. Or it could be that you, are feeling bad today. All these kind of things that are kind of, really describes your life. We want to be able to recognize that and kind of anchor it to a timeline, so that Kin also gets this understanding about how your life is evolving, right? And can be there for you in the situations where you need it.
Gotcha.
And with these two types of memories, Kin will really be able to kind of understand what's going on in your life, basically.
Gotcha. So it's kind of on a growth journey with you. So before I go back to these questions, I am curious. I think you mentioned it a little bit, but okay, you just said the memories getting stored in your DWN, but how does it make those little graph connections? Is that through the vector embeddings? Because when I downloaded it, it was like Rizèl has a best friend, how does it separate out everything that's happening?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically we are analyzing the conversations as they flow, and we try to recognize Rizèl has a friend called Sarah, for example. Then we will take that new knowledge and we will send it into a custom model that we built, actually. So we fine-tuned a large language model built on Mistral 7B, but with our own data set. And what it does is basically that it takes in this new knowledge that we have recognized from the chat, or what we think is new knowledge. And then we query this graph that already exists, and we kind of take a subgraph, the relevant subgraph that might be related to that thing. Then we give it to the LLM, to the model, and it outputs graph operations. So that's something like add node, add edge, remove node, remove edge. And then we apply those to the graph. And in that way, the memory evolves as you speak and interact with Kin, basically.
Love it. All right. I'm going to ask the questions that are coming in from Discord, but I have more of my own. I hope they don't take up too much time. So one of the questions that Ace brought in here from the Discord was, how large can our local DWN be? And also, do you leverage RDF like graphs, and how do you represent them in DWN message?
Great questions and technical question as well. So how large can your local DVN be? I think we have phones with quite a lot of storage. So as long as we're talking about text mostly, we can store quite a lot of data. Obviously, if we get into images and videos and other type of media, we have to consider that maybe there's some selective synchronization or things like that. IDF-like graphs, we actually don't. We have an option to export the graph as an RDF graph, actually, but right now it's only kind of for internal use. And that also kind of comes into how we represent them in a DVN message. So if you're familiar with the DVN, it's built around schemas and protocols that are kind of like JSON schemas, right? To kind of define, this is my object. The challenge, you can say, with that is if you want to do very like advanced queries on top of your data, which we want to do. So we have together, we see the DVN as kind of a raw data storage, and then on top of the DVN, we have built an indexing layer. So we have another local database that indexes all of the data. That's where the vector embeddings are stored. That's, this database also support like graph operations. So we can query it. We can do like nearest neighbors stuff. We can do vector searches and stuff like that. And then we can store, some of the raw data in the DVN. I hope that makes sense.
No, that made a lot of sense. And like, even just like, I think my understanding is like your DWN is going to be as big as whatever your phone storage would be. And if you get into like videos and images and stuff like that, you'll have to like think about it more. This is an interesting question. And somebody's asking about like, what can ever be integrated with IoT devices in a home or office environment? I like this because it could be like with like what I was mentioning with Alexa, where it's like, oh, Alexa, open this or set your reminder. But now Kin knows you're always going to want to open your blinds at 9 a.m. or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's just a matter of time, and data integrations is on our roadmap. We just have to figure out what data integrations brings the most value to Kin in the way of getting to know you better as a person, because that's our goal number one. And then, further down the line, we're definitely going to see this world where agents are actually also taking actions on your behalf, right? And it would probably be quite simple to integrate with some Google Home or something like that, so it will be able to actually trigger some different actions at certain times. That's definitely gonna happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really like that question, because when you think about like Google Home and other assistants right now, they already can carry out actions on your behalf. But for the most part, it feels like you're dictating an instruction, or you're setting an action to take at a later time. But if
Yes.
picturing a world where there's this personal AI and you start to have conversations, like an actual conversation with Google Home, it's like, oh, I want to do this. Like, oh, you have to do this. Don't do this that way. Like, it just starts to feel more personal.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Totally. And for us, this is one of the next steps. So we have a lot of kind of on the roadmap, right? One of the things are these personalized reminders, which is kind of a first step. Very soon we will, as Kin gets to know you, it will also be able to kind of suggest you to do things, right? So we want to make it more proactive. So let's say that you want to be a better boyfriend, then that it might know that this is one of the values that you're working on. Okay, then if it knows that Valentine's Day is coming up, it might like suggest you, maybe you should, book a table at a restaurant or something like that, right?
I like
so
the
it can
emphasis on
actually
suggest.
Not just do kind of what you're telling it to do, but also based on all this knowledge it will actually be able to suggest based on where you are in your life right now, what would be appropriate to do, and suggestions, and keep you accountable for things that you might want to do but might not be doing.
I actually have a question. I hope it's not too intrusive, but I'm curious about your business model because I mean a lot of people ask this when I've talked about like Web5 DWNs on like live streams. They're like, why would a company move to this? How would they make money off of this? Because I know right now with other AI companies, it's free to us, but they're selling our data. And then if you want more or have like an increased experience, then you pay a little bit more. But for you, is it like to be able to access this, people have to eventually pay after it's out of beta mode? Or what's the value it's going to bring to you? Because after all, you are a business.
That's completely true. And it will be a model where people have to pay us because we cannot monetize the data because we don't have it. So it's very simple. And it might seem a little bit scary if you are Meta or Facebook. But we actually think that you can build a product where you provide enough value that people want to pay for it. It's actually quite simple. But I think that comes back to maybe some of the general things when we're talking about adoption and of data sovereignty, right? Because sometimes you get the feeling that like consumers or people don't really care about that, and I think that's in a way true. Like only few people care about privacy just for the sake of privacy. Few people care about data sovereignty just for the sake of data sovereignty. In the end, it's really all about the value and the utility that you get from being in control of your data. So, we have tons of wallets out there where you can kind of connect data and have some data in it, but most of them are empty and they're boring and, they're of no use, right? So you might have very strong ideologies and principles, but if you don't build a product that people want to use, then what does it matter, right? We want to take, then you're just left with, like, then you don't give people an alternative at all. Then they're just stuck with what they have now, right? So it's this bridge that you have to do. You can't go 100% all in and make it super tricky and difficult and make people store private keys under their pillows and do a lot of technical stuff, because then they're not going to move there ever. So we need to bridge the gap, right? So we can get people on that journey. And that's what we're very focused on. So we don't want to like compromise on convenience, but we also want to make sure that we are really doing things the right way when it comes to privacy and security and data ownership. But we want to do it on your behalf, so you don't have to care about it. We will care about it for you.
I love
that. Sounds great.
Yeah, I love that. And
I think
what was
I was checking if I have any more questions from Discord.
Oh, gotcha. Let me know if we have more. I was just going to comment. I think that sounds really similar to what a lot of other guests have said that have come on this stream when they talked about like the usability. Like you don't want to make this be something that people don't want to use or is seeming like really technically overwhelming, because then that'll reduce the chance of adoption. And I mean, this is not really on the list of things we were going to talk about, but I just have another random question. I was like, I mean, if you don't know, you don't know, whatever. But I was like reading this blog post, and it was called like the 3-wallet problem, and it was talking about how like in this SSI industry, we're telling people like install this wallet and now this wallet and now this wallet, and this is actually not a good experience for people, because now they're just going to have a million wallets to like prove their identity and be able to get access to these things. And although this is not necessarily related to Kin, but I know you're really like embedded into this industry, I'm curious of your thoughts on that.
I completely agree. And there's wallets everywhere, and people are just going to use what's convenient. They're not going to choose a wallet over another wallet because, whatever. I think, honestly, the best wallet is the wallet that people don't really know what they have. So when you sign up to Kin, you actually get a wallet, right? You get a wallet that can hold, you have a DID, it can hold verifiable credentials. It could even hold crypto if you wanted to, right? But that's not the point of this, and that will enable us to do some amazing things later, because I think we're looking into a future where it's going to become like very, very important. But for now, and for the stage our product is in now, it's not important. The important thing is that it's built in and we are ready to unlock that future. So I think it was your own like example earlier, like proving something, right, with verifiable credentials. So imagine that we have this future where agents are actually acting on our behalf, right? Let's say, you tell it to go to a restaurant and book a table. Okay, well, the restaurant owner will want to know that that AI agent that is now trying to book a table is actually, there's a human being behind that, right? It's not just like some rogue AI agent that is out and booking 1,000 tables at once. So, and how do you prove that, right? Well, that's where, you can take your DID, you can create a verifiable credential, you can let your agent present that verifiable credential to the restaurant, so the restaurant can prove, okay, this is actually Simon that is booking. It's not just some random AI agent, right? And that's how we can like bring trust into these AI interactions. And I think that's going to be key in a future where it's inevitably going to be AI agents talking to other AI agents and businesses and other persons.
I love that. I love that you said that, especially the trust part. I think when I initially posted about this stream, there was one comment that they were like, you can never trust AI because you don't know what the output would be. But I don't think that's what you meant when you say trust, or what I meant either. It was more like, I trust that this AI is acting on behalf of this person. I trust that my data is not being shared with other people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we want to enable data sharing, because data really gets value when you can share it. But the important thing is that you're in control. So I think when you imagine that, you spend a year or two building up your kin, it knows a lot about you. That is actually really, really powerful and valuable. And in order for you to then start getting some value out in the world of this data, you can imagine a scenario where, let's say, you're going to your psychiatrist every second week, and the psychiatrist will ask your AI agent to prepare a little summary about what happened in your life over the past 2 weeks, like what physical activities did you do? Maybe did you have any like important conversations and stuff like that? And it can send a request to your kin, and you will be able to it will prepare that email for you, and you will be able to share it. But it could also be, you're visiting an e-commerce website, shopping for some new clothes. And that website might ask your AI agent, so what style do you like? What clothes did you buy last time? What are your sizes and these kind of things? And you can just approve, the AI agent can share that data for you, right? And what's really powerful is that with the LLM, we can have this schema agnostic sharing. So basically you can request the data in natural language, and you can just describe the format that you want the data in. So the psychiatrist might want it in an email, but the website want it in some specific JSON structure that they can easily parse and use, right? And that's how we enable, that's how owning and controlling your own data suddenly becomes like extremely valuable, and I think more than we have ever seen before. And that will be a big incentive to actually own and control your own data.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna clip that. Like, I'm gonna clip of that, because that was really good. And I think it was like, just the way you described it, it's a good way to like envision the future. And I don't know, I'm either gonna become really lazy or really AI do it for me. I'm not doing it. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I mean, it's very nice to dream and imagine and try to build the future. But right now, Kin is in beta, and I wanted to ask, because you've already started touching about it. But like for this year, for example, which is more short term and a bit long term, what are you looking forward to bring into Kin, and what are the next steps?
Oh, so many things. So first of all, we have our private beta. I think there's around 1,000 users now that are engaging and using it. We have a Discord that we're getting a lot of feedback. So right now it's a lot about learning how people are using it and making the product, better. One of the big things that's coming up are these personalized reminders. So that's super, super cool. Then we have this whole episodic memory thing that I talked about, which is going to give Kin this ability to understand your life much better. And then I think one of the most requested features is voice. So you can actually talk to Kin. And that's definitely coming. Luckily, we have like Christopher Shelby. He's our head of AI. He's been building Samsung's Bixby, their AI assistant, and he has a PhD in text to speech and has built your TTS, which is actually one of the baseline models that are used today for comparison. So we have an expert in the field, and we are excited to really build some amazing voice features. And then, of course, also, just multi-device is also a big thing. So that's also going to be this year. So we're going to be busy.
Sounds like it.
All of it. I'm super excited because I have been using it, and I know the example you gave of like talking to your psychiatrist, it sounds silly, but I kind of was using ChatGPT like before therapy. I would be like writing out all my stuff because sometimes I'll go to therapy and they're like, "What's going on with your week?" And I'm like, "I don't know, nothing." So I would just like write it down in ChatGPT. I'm like, put a summary so I could just say it to my therapist. So I'm like, I'm gonna switch to Kin and try it out to see how that works. And I like the idea of voice. I'm curious how y'all will handle like different accents and all that, because I know like
mine.
No, anybody. I mean, even sometimes
I know.
I guess I have an American accent, but sometimes I'm like, man, it's not typing anything I said. All right.
That's for sure a challenge, but there's a lot of great work being done on that. And Chris, as I mentioned, he did a paper on like zero shot multilingual TTS. So that basically means you can take your voice or any voice and then turn it into another language, and you can also do the same thing with accents, for example. So you will be able to we will be able to hopefully create a Kin voice that is very unique, but hopefully you will also be able to personalize it so it's to your liking, basically.
I would pay for this. Any last questions before I transition to the other questions?
I mean, I have something to say. Not necessarily a question. It's more like a general observation. Because when it comes to voice, for example, I don't know if you probably all saw the human API device, to sleep to your chest. And I've always thought about stuff in the direction where I could be walking, going on a run or in the shower or just, thinking by myself. And I'm having all these thoughts. And I don't want to like pick up a pen and start writing it out. I don't want to like, what's it called? Turn on the camera and record myself. But imagine just being able to say things like, "Oh, I'm thinking about," like it just feels very natural, and you're expressing it, you're thinking, and there is something that just captures this in a secure way, obviously without like invading or using your data to sell you stuff, and being able to keep that in check. You can go back to it later. There are times where I give a whole, like presentation, just walking on this. I could be thinking about a topic and I give an entire presentation, or I record a YouTube video without any camera, and there's nothing to capture that voice or that recording or be smart enough to process it. I think that is one thing that I'm looking forward to.
I completely agree. Like my what I want to do is like when I'm biking home from work, I just want to talk to Kin and describe what happened today and kind of just do a little journaling, brain dump style kind of thing, and just tell it about what happened, right? Just to keep it in the loop. And because I know how valuable that will be, that it gets to know me, right? But I also have to say that traditional journaling, for example, I love the idea of it, but I never really got into it.
Same.
I'm excited to capture my shower thoughts. Just like clear. I mean, I'm like, this is a perfect conference talk, and then I come out the shower and I'm like, I forgot it. Right. So I do want to remind people, go ahead and check out mykin.ai. It's in beta right now, but I requested to join and got like accepted pretty quickly. I'm having a good time it's just asking me about myself. I guess it's learning me. I think it's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
definitely check that out. Any place else that people should check you out, Simon, before I ask you these other questions?
Yeah, for sure. Go to the website and sign up. You will get access, I think, more or less immediately, as you said right now.
Yeah.
We also have a Discord where we have around, I think, 700-800 people that are talking about AI and personal AI stuff. So definitely come in and just be brutal, honest with you. What do you like? What do you not like? We are totally open for all types of discussions, and we just want to have your feedback. That's how we get better.
Yes. And I also want to plug your blog. Like I was reading
Yes.
it and it's pretty interesting. Like y'all got some deep thoughts. So blog.
Definitely, if you're into like the more, if you want to understand, for example, how we approach privacy, there's a whole kind of 4-article series on the road to privacy, where we kind of describe why it's important for personal AI and the different approaches you can take, and then how we are approaching it. So that will give you a lot of food for thoughts, I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right. With just the 3 minutes left, I'm gonna ask some of like just the fun little questions just to get to know you. So first question is, what's your favorite food?
Yeah, this is a little bit embarrassing actually, because it's called Mexican lasagna in my family. So it's like lasagna, but with tortillas instead of pasta, and with chicken. It's my dad's recipe,
Wow.
and it has zero to do with actual real Mexican food, which I also love. But I guess it's just something you get used to when you grow up with it.
It's
That
like,
sounds exciting.
yeah, I know, right? Family meal. I like any kind of lasagna, so that was good.
I have a very funny story about lasagnas.
Ooh,
The first time I would hear about them was through this movie Garfield. So it's like, oh, lasagna. I'm like, I need to eat this someday. I need to eat this. And I finally did, and it was worth it.
it
It
was
was a good
worth
one.
it.
That's
Oh,
It was a
great.
I
good
thought
one.
you were gonna say you had your expectations
No,
here.
it
You're
was
like,
right there. It was right
okay.
there.
Garfield
It was
knows
right
what's good, that's for sure.
there. It was right there.
Any mixture of like grain, sauce, and cheese is bomb. Okay. What will your superpower be if you could, or if you could have any superpower? What would it be?
I think, well, the superpower that I dream about when I'm, dreaming is flying around. So I think it would be that, like, just be able to fly. That be cool? Yeah,
The power of
100%.
light.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's like definitely a perfect one. But I'm like my number one is teleportation. I would just love to be like, "Boop." I wonder if
That's
Ken
also
should do
good.
that one day. Ken, bring me.
That would be cool.
All right. And then last but not least, what's your favorite Beyonce song?
Yeah, this one is really difficult. I love a lot of music, but I don't really follow specific artists a lot. So I had to go all the way back to kind of Destiny's Child period and Survivor. I think kind of I grew up with that song, and I think it's very fitting for a startup. So 100% Survivor.
I like that. I'm a survivor. That is fitting for
Oh, I'm
a startup.
surviving.
Because you're just trying to live and make sure you get to be a scale up eventually. This
Absolutely.
was this was really great and interesting. I'm excited for like the further improvements of Kin. Like I
Mhm.
want to keep trying it out. And if in the future you ever have like this cool update on Kin and you want to return, definitely feel free to reach out. And also thanks to the audience. Y'all always ask really like interesting questions. Like y'all are
Yeah,
thinking,
really good questions.
yeah, I love it. Um and oh, well, last thing to let y'all know, there's not going to be a Twitch stream next week, but there will be a Discord community showcase with another employee from Ken who's going to talk about his thoughts on AI, or I think he is his thoughts on AI and privacy and all that. So if there's nothing else, well, do y'all have anything else you want to say before we?
No, thank you, everybody.
Just
Thank you for
thank
stopping
you
by as
for bringing
always.
me on, and for everyone listening. It was a pleasure to talk about Kin. And I
Thank you
hope
for
you will
joining
try it
us,
out.
Simon.
All right, bye y'all.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.